Wanted to talk about today what I think is a really underrated hypertrophy tool for power athletes. First off, I want to pay homage to where I learned this from. Jake Tura, check that guy out, buy his program if you want the whole thing of this. It's really good. I ran the whole thing myself, got some awesome gains out of it. This is just a really simplified, easy version that you can implement in your training today. First off, what are hypertrophy clusters? Who are they best for? I think anybody can benefit from hypertrophy clusters if you're a lifter. I think they are especially useful for power athletes. I would describe a power athlete as someone who competes in a sport where you have to display force very quickly and very often. For example, football, wrestling, hockey, throwing. Hypertrophy clusters are an extremely efficient way to get a large amount of volume in at a relatively high percentage of your 1 rep max. They can be extremely beneficial in a period of time where you're trying to accumulate a lot of volume, put some size on, and also increase your strength. Now for the meat and potatoes, how do I start doing these today? Clusters work extremely well for press variations. I recommend you do that for the first time. In this example, we're going to work up to a top single of whatever exercise we pick, in this case, a bench press. The goal of this weight is to get over 90% of our daily capability. You could equate this single to a 9 RPE or 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Once you've established that number, you can start to set up your hypertrophy clusters for the day. The set and rep prescription will be 8 sets of 5 repetitions at a prescribed percentage. This is a sample progression that you could run over a 3-week wave of hypertrophy clusters. First, you would start with 70% of the top single that you hit for the day and do 8 sets of 5 of that. The next week, you would increase the weight slightly to 75% of the weight you have for a single, and for the third week, you could finish with 80%. Each of these bench sets would then be paired with an antagonist muscle group. So, for example, the bench press today, we're doing a row. You can and should get creative here. I picked a dumbbell row today in the 5 rep range just to match the bench, but you can do pretty much anything. You could do an inverted row, you can do anything body weight, any difficulty layer you really want, anywhere in the 5 to 15 rep range I think is totally fine. Just relatively difficult sets, 2 to 3 RR for all of them. And you can and probably will get tired as your sets go on. We're doing 8 working sets here. And yes, before you ask, this is a lot of volume. That is again why this is a great strategy for a volume accumulation period with the goal is actually getting bigger and stronger. More volume will lead directly to more size. The last thing to note is that there is a time constraint during the clusters. You should perform your first bench set at the start of a 2-minute period. You should finish your bench set, take a little bit of rest, perform your antagonist exercise, whichever you pick, and then you should return back to another set of bench press once 2 minutes has expired. If you do this correctly, you should be able to finish 8 sets of 5 in just 16 minutes with an extremely high amount of volume and intensity as well. The pump will be nasty. Since the weight is a little bit heavier than you'd be using for regular hypertrophy sets, your nervous system will also be buzzing. These get me feeling crazy compared to a lot of other hypertrophy work. They really get me fired up, moving, feeling really good. Overall, these are an incredible stimulus for growth. I really recommend you try them, especially if you're a power athlete, like I said, in your off season, looking to put on a good amount of muscle size and some strength at the same time at the start of your off season block. That's all for today.